It's the SKOR North Twins Show.
SKOR North Twins Show, where we have won just our second game in the last week, where the Minnesota Twins are now 5-11. Big win on Sunday to avoid the sweep from those Detroit Tigers.
Come on.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
Fire this up, dude.
Congratulations.
Twins TV. Get the subscription while it's hot.
Yep.
Let's go.
15,963 in attendance for Sunday. Not a
Is that
good
what they
one.
announced?
But the Timberwolves were playing I was going to say a big game, a basketball game against the Jazz yesterday.
Wow.
I chose Timberwolves over Twins myself yesterday.
Because on Saturday, they announced 23 plus. And I will say this. I don't buy it. Tons of empty seats. But at least on Saturday, the bars were packed. So the left field bar and the center field bar were packed. But 15,000, huh? That's what they announced?
Yeah, 15,000.
Wow.
Friday night was one of the lowest crowds in weekend history for Target Field, pandemic seasons excluded. I did stop by the Grey Duck Bar on Friday, and it was like pretty packed, but that was an empty ballpark. I mean, it was an empty ballpark this weekend against the Tigers. And now I got the Mets for 3.
I do have an attendance take as part of our State of the Twins. I'll withhold it until we get to one of the categories, though.
Okay.
I'll tease it for later in the show.
State of the Twins. We do this every Monday here on the SKOR North Twins Show channel. Hit that like button and subscribe button. So 5-11. They're 5-11 on the season. They're 4th place in the AL Central. Some key categories here. I'm actually going to add a couple other key categories, too, that we normally do on State of the Twins going forward. Runs scored per game, they're 24th. Runs allowed per game, they're 16th in runs allowed per game. They're 9th with runners in scoring position. So in terms of clutch hitting, Twins have jumped up a little bit. They're 9th when they do put runners in scoring position. That's also kind of a problem. In starter ERA, they're 20th. In bullpen ERA, they are 6th. So the starting rotation, which was supposed to be a huge plus, you are without Pablo Lopez right now. Starter ERA, well below league average. Best bullpen in baseball, maybe a little bit too much of a high mark, but in general, the bullpen has been very solid at 6th. Right now, according to Baseball Reference, the Twins have a 21% chance to make the playoffs. That has fallen by 10+% in the last 2 weeks. They have a 0.7% chance to win the World Series. Twins 5-11 on the season. They are 1-2 in the Dex plan, trying to go. I believe it was 9-6 was my number. So going to have to really get hot here against the Mets, who have the number 1 ERA in baseball. Twins vibes are blank right now. Judd, you were there Saturday. I was there on the bookends of this series.
Yeah.
What is your vibe check for the Twins?
Twins vibes are flopalicious. Flopalicious. This has been a flop. It's been Friday, Saturday, hard to watch. There's no excitement. I would argue that there's no excitement, and I don't know what the vibes were on Sunday, since they did win a game, and we can rejoice about that. I would argue the vibes have been flat from the clubhouse. I mean, it's been... If we had mapped out what's the worst possible start, like what's the worst, let's say things go wrong, which of course they have. What's the worst possible start? I don't even know if I would have landed here. They have won, I believe they have now played through the Tigers series, 5 series. They've won 1. It was against a White Sox team that until recently hadn't won since March. And they beat the Twins 9-0 in game 1. Flopalicious are the vibes.
Flopalicious. I would say Twins vibes. Twins vibes are on hold until an ownership change. I'm going to go big picture on this, as I did last week. It's whether it's the attendance, whether it's just anecdotally. I put out a tweet this weekend asking people, what is the number one reason why you hesitate to go to a Twins game? And there was, I would say, like 15 to 20% of people brought up that like they're like anti-Minneapolis because they're worried about crime or whatever. And that's, I feel like I could give a dissertation on how a lot of that is just fear mongering. Yes, obviously, when you go into any metro area, there's likely to be more crime in any big city
Wolves
than
still draw, right?
your suburb. But to that point, the Wolves are packing that arena on a nightly basis. There was an AC/DC concert on Thursday night, and people were walking around in their AC/DC shirts, like 70,000 people all over Minneapolis. So I don't fully buy. Someone actually hit me up, and I feel bad because I kind of dunked on him on Twitter, but he went on this big thing about like crime, but his profile picture was literally him, a selfie inside US Bank Stadium. So yeah, you're good. I get it. There's a little bit of fear.
It's a different part of downtown,
city.
Phil. It's a different part of downtown. It's way safer there.
But the biggest reason that I found going through the 600 replies on this for why do you hesitate to go to a Twins game is either anti-poll ad or the product is garbage. If they're not winning games, they're not exciting enough. There's just not a lot of players that you would like. When I was a kid, you would pay to see Kirby Puckett even on a bad team because he was electric and he was the face of the city, right? And there's been Johan Santana was a must-buy-a-ticket starting pitcher for a handful of years with the Twins. Mauer and Morneau for a while were, even though Mauer is not the most dynamic personality. So I would say until change starts from the top, the Twins' record on the field is not going. They're not winning 95 games most likely. I mean, this is a carryover. Derek Falvey oversees baseball operations. They now have the second worst record over their past 55 or 60 games, just ahead, like a game ahead of the White Sox over that stretch. So there's just a lot of stuff up top, 30,000 feet, that fans are mad at that is preventing the Twins from being good on the field. So Twins vibes, the positive vibes are on hold until bigger changes occur at the top of the organization.
They're messy. Twins vibes are just messy. There's, at points, there's times. Harrison Bader yesterday makes a great grab in left field, and he's honestly looked a lot better. He has gotten the balls that other players have not. The team defense might be a little bit better now in the outfield. You swap out Jose Miranda for Brooks Lee, who's more of a sure-handed fielder. He has a nice RBI. Like, there's moments where, like, okay, they're probably not White Sox bad, but it's still, you have to string together consistency. I mean, yesterday when Rocco says that's how we win a ball game, that's how we're going to win most of our games was yesterday's blueprint. I mean, is it pulling your starter after 5 innings and having to rely on your bullpen to get 12 outs every single time? And they had some timely hitting yesterday, but again, like you need consistency. So they're all a mess. All 3 phases are still kind of clunky. Walker Jenkins went on the IL after coming back for 2 games from the ankle sprain. He lands right back on there. So I would just say the vibes right now are very messy. And even though they had attendance problems last year and they got off to a very similar start like they did in 2024 and 2025, no one really showed up to that ballpark last year when they were starting to win in May through mid-August. I mean, it still was kind of bleak there. So to Phil's grand ownership point, it's going to take just more. And I keep saying, just win and it will take care of everything.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
People have like not just turned down ownership or mad at not spending money. People are out on this ownership.
They're they're done. I also think that one thing that we didn't probably talk enough about at the time, and we did discuss it, but big picture wise, I think it's one of the biggest things is this. So the Twins turned things around May of last season, right? So, and actually played really well. Well, that basically coincides with the time that, at the time, FanDuel Sports North left Comcast.
Yeah.
And they left them until about August 1st. Well, so we get like 14 games back in and they collapse. And I think one of the most important things that I've seen is I think that being off cable and a lot of TVs for really the majority of the summer has made a lot of fans who were probably on the fence. Like, I'll watch the Twins. I mean, they frustrate me, but I'll watch them. You took them away for 3 months.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of folks out there realized, oh, it was great. I didn't watch them. I didn't care. And so now you're basically back with a bad product, Twins TV. And I think that you lost a big part of your customer base because if nothing else, your games on TV are an infomercial every night. Hey, the Twins are on my TV. The Twins are on my TV. Well, now they're gone. And people are like, oh, okay, this is great. I think that has played a major role in pushing a lot of people towards the cliff. And then starting on August the 17th last summer, the Twins took care of the rest by playing like crap.
Yeah, on just one last thing on the attendance is I looked this up on StatHead after the Friday night game, and I consider weekend games to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You know, I know Friday's technically not, but like Friday night is part of the weekend. It's a weekend series game. Yep. And if you take away the pandemic seasons where attendance was limited either because like they had to have a lower capacity or in the year, to me the pandemic seasons are 2020, 21, and 22. Because even in 22, people were still a little hesitant to go places. It was just people stayed home more in 2022 than they do in 2025. Mm-hmm. So I'll take those seasons out and mark them as pandemic seasons. Friday night was the third lowest attended weekend game in Target Field history, and it was the 13th lowest attended Twins game any day in Target Field history. and that's in part, there's some reasons why, like, you know, the weather's a little colder in April, and you know, it's like expensive to buy things at a Twins game. But I would argue you can go on the secondary market right now. You can go to a Twins game for under $15. You can get a ticket for under $15 to get in the door at a Twins game. So it's not, I mean, yeah, the food and stuff can be expensive, but people have paid expensive prices at Vikings games and Wild games and Wolves games. When you parse some of that stuff out, that's just universal across all sporting events.
Sure.
Fans are speaking loudly about how they feel about ownership and the product. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, these lower attendance marks. So
who can blame them?
Got cars catching on fire on the roof of a parking lot.
Yeah,
Ramp B, man. That's why I park in Ramp A. That's why I park in Ramp A. It's safer. Ramp B, very dangerous.
You never know. Your car could just start on fire in Ramp B. You'd never
Ramp
know,
B,
dude.
it's just a hellscape.
All right, there's no point to go into favorite thing. Let's continue down the least favorite.
Actually, I've got one.
I do too.
I've got a favorite thing.
Skip that category.
Wow.
I've got a favorite thing.
Well, it's not that we're going to skip it. It's just over the last few weeks we've gone from vibe in the least favorite thing.
No, we can put it later as long as we're not skipping it.
Yeah, I was going to
we're
say, because I mean, I've got a few things written down.
I actually have favorite things
the
too.
Judd notebook page filled.
Apologies. I balked there. Least favorite thing. Least favorite thing. Judd, go ahead.
Oh boy, where do I start? Here's where I start. Carlos Correa, and I'm not going to pick on him because one, his team won with him not playing on Sunday, or two, he continues to be, for the most part, despite the occasional double, a disaster at the plate. You know what this Twins team lacks right now, you guys? Terrible start, right? Awful start. This team also lacks accountability. So I went to post game on Saturday, which involves Baldelli talks in a room, followed by the starting pitcher talks in a room, followed by the clubhouse is now open. And if you ask for a player, they'll go and ask the player if that guy is in the back room, which is very big there, or heck, if that player's at his locker, that's fine too. Anyway, I decided, you know what? I'm going to wait it out here. I'm going to wait for the star of this team, the $30 million man. I want to hear, because he's accountable, talked in spring training, right? Like, hey, I'm Carlos Correa. I'm here to answer your questions. And this is a disaster, unmitigated disaster. So I'm going to get the answers from Carlos Correa.
Yeah.
Well, waited some more.
Yep.
Nothing at the locker.
Yep.
PR said, who are you looking for? I said, Carlos Correa. They said, it's going to be a long time. It's going to be a long time. In other words, buzz off, get lost. I then asked a colleague in the Fourth Estate. I said, is this an occasional problem? Is this these guys are playing terrible. Somebody theoretically should be wearing the C, and it should be Carlos Correa. And I don't mean for Correa, I mean for captain. And I was told no. He talked in spring training, but since then, he spends as little time in the clubhouse as possible. He is not talking much after games. And I thought to myself, oh, I get it. Complete lack of accountability by the guy who should be your leader. And let's look at this team, okay? I would not say that this team has, and Dex could correct me if he thinks I'm wrong, but I personally would not say that this team has a lot of dynamic personalities. It's not like you got, Ty France is going to pick up the thing and he's going to talk today. And I understand if it's one bad game. I understand if it's a small streak that you might not talk a ton. But this to me is a time when your theoretical captain should be in front of his locker all the time to answer questions, to hold people accountable. Carlos Correa has become a ghost. That, to me, is inexcusable.
Yeah, some of this is I agree, by the way. I agree that when the team is tumbling and fans want to know what's happening, and like there should be some explanation from behind the curtain of what's happening. Now, a lot of fans have just completely tuned out, as we have talked about.
Right.
But yeah, there does seem to be, like, he is supposed to be, in terms of his productivity over 10 years, his status with his paycheck and everything. Like, he is the de facto leader of that clubhouse. And there's two or now pitchers are tough because they're only like a starting pitcher.
Agreed.
On a day where Pablo Lopez isn't pitching or he's hurt or something, like, he's not going to come out and speak on behalf of the team. So I get that. So like the position players are the ones that are out there on a regular basis. So I would say that Byron Buxton and Carlos Correa, this is your team, publicly and privately, clubhouse and front facing.
Yep.
So if things are going poorly, those are the guys that should be front facing and talking about it. I sometimes wonder how much fans now care about that compared to,
I should be clear,
10 or 15 years ago, though.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that point. I'm not even talking about quotes for fans. I'm talking about accountability for his teammates to see. So yeah, so I'm not saying, man, there's no Carlos Correa quotes in the paper or on a website. I am saying he should be front and center for his teammates to see the accountability he's taking. Yeah. So this to me is a completely internal rant. This is hey, our best player, supposedly, the guy who's supposed to be our captain, is taking accountability for this disaster, or at least what he can, and he's not. So yeah, my rant is based completely on the clubhouse, not like the fans and seeing quotes.
Mm-hmm. I would say my least favorite thing right now is just their recipes for trying to win. I mentioned it a little bit yesterday, and look, I understood why Simeon got pulled after I think 78 pitches yesterday. He threw like 100 plus in his last start, even though they did, bump up the rotation. Zebby pitched well on Friday. He's going to stick around here, which did not surprise me.
Festa.
Festa. Sorry, yeah, Festa, who started on Friday. He's actually now going to start on Wednesday. Zebby Matthews will remain in St. Paul for right now. He's going to make his scheduled start with the Saints tomorrow in Iowa against the Cubs. But you're pulling your starters after 5, and even though I think more times than not the bullpen comes through, you're going to have blow-up games. Like Friday night, they're in position to still win that game. Alcala melts down. They need more than just 5 innings and then 12 outs from the bullpen. Also, they're in the middle of this run where they finally have an off day on Thursday. Dude, you're going to be taxing guys like crazy if you continue to go down that path. Like, Griffin Jackson is going to get holds. He was great yesterday. Louis Varland was probably the most electric I have ever seen his stuff was yesterday. That's great. There's options in the bullpen. But I think this whole pulling them after 5 and going from there, and if we can get a 3-1 lead by the 6th inning, we're all good. I think your offense has yet to really show that you can rely on that to get some insurance runs too. Defensively, there's some strides, but still there's some question marks on the right side of the infield. I just don't love their strategy of how to win right now.
Yeah, the pitch count thing, I get that it's early and the weather is a little shady in the first few weeks of April, but there's definitely been a few times where you could have pushed it another inning or two. But they do love that bullpen. But it's a 6-month process, and you've got some arms in there. I do think that everyone's kind of overrated their bullpen because you're projecting best case scenario. Yeah. You can't just say, well, if all these things happen at the best possible rate, then they're gonna have the best bullpen in baseball. Well, okay, what's the likelihood of that? So yeah, I would have pushed it a little bit more with some of these games. These are like they're playing some must-win games right now. Like what are they, 5-11 after that win yesterday? And you got the Mets coming to town. I get that as a manager and a front office, a big part of your job is to look beyond this one moment in this one game because it's one of 162, and you do have to look out for the 6-month health and flow of a team. Mm-hmm. But when you have playoff aspirations and you are 5-11 to start the year, and now the Mets are coming to town, one of the best records in baseball, one of the best run differentials so far. If you get swept, it's over. You could maybe lose 2 out of 3 and then like recover the games, but the further you dig your hole here getting into May, you can't win a division in April, but you can damn well lose one. And so that's where I question a little bit. If you've got a starting pitcher who's rolling at 78 pitches, and you kind of have to win a divisional game here, or you're going to be leaking too many games under 500. Yep. Are you really as worried about preserving that dude's arm for 2 or 3 months from now? So they've kind of put themselves in that weird spot where you probably do have to manage certain games early. These are higher leverage games because of their record than they would have been if you were 2 games over 500 right now.
Does Baldelli do that though, Dex? Like it feels like he would be the last guy on earth to do that, even though what Phil is saying makes perfect sense.
To keep
like you have to win a game against the Mets here, or your season's probably over. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true.
But do you think Baldelli? I don't feel like he's going to change the way that he's going to do things because of that. Despite again the fact I agree with what Phil is saying.
Yeah, they are pretty locked in their ways.
Yes, they are.
But here, and there was a great conversation on Friday with media and Rocco. There was no TV cameras in there. It was kind of a nice, more intimate conversation with the manager. And like the weather's cold right now. It stinks. Guess what? October baseball is also cold. So figuring out it's going to be 70 and 80 in July and August. Like, hey, now World Series being played in Los Angeles again is obviously very likely. But if you're playing a World Series in Minnesota for the most part, or in the Midwest, or on the East Coast, best case scenario, you're looking at maybe a 55-degree day at that point in mid-October. Maybe you get some pop-up random weather. You have to figure out ways to win in brutal situations that aren't ideal in 75 and sunny in the middle of July.
Yeah.
And their problems are self-inflicted, too. I'm sorry. I'm not going to blame the cold. They're self-inflicted. They've played like crap.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Okay, I'll give you my least favorite thing, then we can do a quick round of favorite things. So my least favorite thing is Jose Miranda and the play at second base that everyone saw, or if you didn't, it was – so there was a ground ball, and there was a throw to second base as he's running from first to second base. Was it the second baseman who fielded the throw?
Yeah, base, ground ball to first, makes the throw to second. The shortstop does not come across. The second baseman goes back and makes the catch.
So, but he pulls his foot off the bag before he catches and secures the ball.
Yes.
And Miranda's sliding into second base and assumes that he's out. But the umpire, without any hesitation, is signaling safe, points at the bag, safe. And Miranda, just kind of out to lunch mentally, gets up from the bag. Now, the throw never – so he's still holding the ball in his glove as Miranda is walking off the base thinking he's out. He gets tagged. He's all confused. And it was just a boneheaded mental mistake. But it's – and they you talk about accountability. They held him accountable for that and the slow start offensively and the second half of last season where he was dormant as a bat. And they sent him back down to the minors. But I'm singling him out as a symptom of something bigger with this organization, which is that's a former second-round draft pick who's now, I think, is he 28 now? No, he's to be 27 years old this summer. Oh. But he's no longer a 22-year-old kid here. He's literally a 27-year-old. This is his 4th year in the big leagues. And a mental mistake like that, on top of the last 3 months of last year, he batted 198 with a 507 OPS. He literally had 8 extra base hits in the second half of last season. And now to start this season, he's batting 167 with a 417 OPS. So his OPS is below 500 since the second half of the 2024 season. And I say symptomatic because whether it was Miguel Sano several years ago or Max Kepler, there's been a bunch of examples of highly touted Twins prospects or first or second or third round draft picks that have completely plateaued or gotten worse as they emerge into their prime. And Jose Miranda, you can add him to that list. You're over 1,000 career plate appearances, and you're making mistakes like that mentally, and your OPS is unplayable. It's a bad sign. It's a bad sign.
And that leads perfectly into my favorite thing, which is the post-game.
Hold on. Time out. Pause before we get there.
Oh, you want to do? Okay, sorry.
Let's shout out Underdog here. Yeah.
Trying to transition there.
It was a good transition, but
it was good. It was another balk. Hey, Underdog, promo code SKOR, SKOR, will still get you a big deposit match. There were some great winners, even in fact on the Masters, which is PGA is a lot of my favorite things to get in on Underdog. You can actually now try to pick better or worse on tournament positions. That's another new wrinkle for golf on Underdog. Plus, there is still great options to get in on MLB, on NBA, etc. I got NBA playoffs that are starting, some new promotions from Underdog too for just the NBA playoffs, which are going to be great for pick 'em on higher or lower. So go download the Underdog app, use promo code SKOR on the Google Play Store or App Store when you sign up. Promo code SKOR, and you'll get a deposit match.
Also, Park Dental powering the State of the Twins here today. Park Dental is my new dentist as of last summer, and it's been a great experience. And I hope that if you are in the market for a new dentist, or maybe you're looking for a better dentist, or maybe you've moved and you need something closer to where you live or work, that you give Park Dental a try. Over 50 years, Park Dental's been caring for and cleaning teeth in Minnesota and Western Wisconsin. You can find a list of all of the different locations, and there's likely to be one, like I said, within minutes of wherever you live or work in the metro area or Western Wisconsin. When you go to parkdental.com, you can find out all that information. Parkdental.com, schedule your checkup. Baseball. All right, sorry to interrupt your transition there, Judd.
My perfect transition was this. My favorite thing was the decision to send him down after the game. Miranda, this is the type of thing where the Twins, I think, have too often not done this, that they've excused it, they've looked past it. Like, the accountability here to me was, yes, you're paying attention. The poke with a stick thing. Pay attention. Do something. They did something. The mistake itself was stupid. It was inexcusable. But the fact that the Twins actually addressed it is my favorite thing, because, and the fact that he was not playing well, certainly was not hitting well, plays a factor as well. I get that. The Twins will actually point to that. I'm not buying it. What I am buying is that there was some type of accountability finally, and it just shows. It shows that they're willing to do something once in a while, which I don't think that this organization is currently constructed has done enough, which is to demote a guy who just massively screwed up when you cannot afford it. That is 2 men on, down 4 rip. Instead, it's 2 outs instead with a guy on first. Just a monumental gaffe. So good for the Twins for actually doing something about it.
Yeah, my favorite current Twins thing is I spent the entire spring stumping for Ty France, trying to tell everyone that he's not cooked. I don't know what happened there with the foot and the injuries, but that dude was a stud for a couple of years in Seattle. He's still in his prime. It is a very small 62 plate appearance sample size, but he's currently sitting on an 811 OPS and a 131 OPS plus. Anything over 100 is above average. He's been one of the best hitters on the team so far, and he's barely struck out. He has 4 strikeouts in 62 plate appearances. So he's putting the ball in play, doing Ty France things that we saw in Seattle for a couple of years when he was an all-star in 2022. So again, small sample size, but the Ty France signing has worked the way that they hoped for now.
My favorite thing is I think Edward Julian's finally seeing some of these adjustments finally being made at the plate. So if you actually look at where he's hitting the ball, and by the way, he's always had opposite field power. Like he parked one yesterday off the foul pole. He's going to go the other way when he hits the ball, but also a lot of these pitches are on the outer half. And he's also, even when he's striking out swinging. And I know, like, I don't want to see him striking out at a 30% clip necessarily, but he went down looking so many times last year because he didn't know how to adjust to outside breaking balls. He's now swinging at them. He's making contact with them. If they can get Edward Julian more back to the 2023 version of who he was as a very productive leadoff hitter, then that's great for this lineup and great for the offense. So those adjustments that Julian has been making are starting to pay off here a little bit. It's my favorite thing.
All right,
It's my
boy,
favorite
look at
thing.
that. Let's go. Positivity to end that.
1 in a row.
Let's make it 2.
1 in
Meet
a row.
the
yeah.
Mets.
That's
the Met.
if you win again tonight, it's called a winning streak.
Buh.
Juan Soto. Strike him out.
Let's go.
Hit the like button, subscribe button. We'll have some extra inning content from the ballpark throughout the rest of the week. Appreciate you guys. We'll be back tomorrow. This is the SKOR North Twins Show.